Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. How you guys doing? And it is confirmed that Nils Koppen is our new Director of Player Recruitment at West Ham. It's exciting times. I think it's a really important moment for West Ham in this championship season, because we're at the start of, well, I suppose the end of the season really. It's weird with the World Cup seasons, isn't it? They don't really tend to end, but you know, at the end of the season, we sort of didn't really know who was doing what at West Ham. We didn't know who was going to get the deals done. And it now does appear we can finally start to build a squad in the Championship. Nils Koppen is going to be our guy. Came from Denmark, very highly regarded. Worked with Karim Varane at Rangers, who is our current interim CEO, who is also very well liked and does seem to have a very decent bit of pull at the club, which is good to see. You know, we're finally moving in the right direction. And yeah, overall I think it's a really positive move for the club. But before we get into that, if you guys do me a little favour, just make sure you hit in the like, comment and subscribe button. Your guys' support has been absolutely amazing recently. It genuinely means a lot to me. And get involved in the comments as well and let me know who you are, what players you'd like to see us sign now that we can get anyone. Obviously within realistic bounds. Obviously we'd all love to sign Mbappe or Doué, but that isn't going to happen. But who would you like to see at West Ham? Who would you like to see? Now that we can start to sign some players, who would you like to see? I think it is really important that we got this done now. I think it was not panic stations as such, but there was getting into a time where we weren't signing anybody, and I think it was very apparent that we didn't have anyone that really could do anything. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I was shocked the Mateus Fernandes deal went through just because I didn't think we had anybody involved at the club. I didn't know who was going to be doing those options and those discussions. I didn't really understand who we had in place, and I don't think clubs did either. There was a lot of reports of West Ham have had bids received and just met with silence, or even rejection, just flat out nothing. And that's probably because we were trying to figure out who was going to be involved at the club. And now I think Nils Koppen coming in is really important. He has to work with Nuno. And look, we know Nuno's history of directors of football. But before we get into Nuno's history of directors of football, let's talk about why this has to be different to our previous directors of football. Look, this has to be different. I obviously come back to the Tim Steidten one. Is probably my most memorable one just because it was the most recent. Tim Steidten coming in, signed some really good players for us, and then basically we changed manager, didn't get on with him, and he left really quickly. Look, Tim Steidten has been kicked out of training grounds, so maybe there's a bit of a character thing there, but we can't do what we did with Tim Steidten, which is just let him have one summer and then bin him off. This has to be a project. Now, there are rumours that Nils Koppen will be Director of Player Recruitment for this season, and the next season he'll go into a smaller role and we'll elect a Director of Football when we have more pull back in the Premier League. That is a rumour that I read about a week or two ago. So that could absolutely be out the window now and could be completely in the bin and completely rubbish. But I'm just suggesting that I don't think that this is the long game, but I think Nils Koppen should be a part of the club going forward. Whether he is in the same position, I don't know. He might prove to be a really good Director of Player Recruitment, and therefore we just keep him. Like, that genuinely could be what it is. I think it's important to not rule that out. I think it's important to have the knowledge, have the wherewithal to kind of go, right, we need stability at this club. We need to be able to move forward. We need to be able to actively operate normally. Because go back to Carl McCauley as well, who is also another Director of Football. But the reason I don't really look at Carl McCauley as a Director of Football is because he was here for a tea break. Yes, he was here for Graham Potter's first window, and I believe he was here until the January, but it was very clear Nuno didn't want to work with him. But we also paid like $1 million in compensation, I think it was, to Chelsea to get him. Or was it Manchester United? It may have been Man United, or he may now be at Man United. I can't remember, I'm going to be honest. But either way, we paid a lot of money to get him into the club, and we just got rid of him. We can't be doing that again. We need our player recruiters and directors of football and whoever to outlast managers. We can't be going from manager to manager. And then this is where Nuno's history of directors of football comes in, and I go, oh, okay, how's this going to work? Because remember there was that rumour that Nuno was going to have a big say on who the director of football was. I don't know whether that's true. What I can say is that I think Karim Varane has picked someone he knows is a safe pair of hands, which I like. I like the fact we're going with someone that the top at the club have a working relationship with. I think that makes it a lot easier going forward when we're doing negotiations and discussions, and because I just want this to be the start of a new era, and I do believe it is. We're in the Kretinsky era now. We're not under the reign of Sullivan, but this is going to be the real first test. Is how much say will Nils have? Will it be, oh, Nuno has vetoed this transfer? Oh, Kretinsky has vetoed this transfer. Oh, this signing is a Nuno signing. Oh, this is a Kretinsky signing. This is a Koppen signing. We can't be doing that. We need unity. And it doesn't mean everyone's going to agree all the time. You can have managers or owners say no to a signing. That's fine. What we can't do is go, Nuno doesn't want to work with Koppen, because that can't happen. And look, yes, we all know what happened with Nuno and Nottingham Forest, but I've always said, and I do believe, it's just based on the fact that I don't think Nuno was bothered by Edu being there. I think it was more the fact that West Ham Nottingham Forest started to not have much contact with him. Marinakis and Edu were clearly having conversations without Nuno. They were clearly planning for a time without Nuno, and Nuno saw that as what are you doing? And look, I know that there was a lot of time as well of, Nuno not being super happy, and I think self-sabotaging his job, and I remember a lot of his backroom staff were really happy at Nottingham Forest, and they were like, we're not going with you because we're happy here, what have you done? But I could only get it from Nuno's perspective of, I had this really good relationship with my boss, and now this new guy's come in, and I can tell they're already, trying to not get rid of me, but they're very much planning for a life without me, and they're not really allowing me to do what I can do well. They're kind of forcing me to do this other thing, which isn't really good. It's sort of you remember when we got Julian Lopetegui in to be an attacking manager? It's like that. I think they were basically trying to say to Nuno, whether directly or indirectly, you need to adapt to the players we're going to sign or you're gone, which is not how Nuno's going to work. Look, for all of Nuno's flaws, and there are a few, I do think one of his strengths is that he is very much himself. You can tell that he is very much as he comes across. Very different to Graham Potter, I imagine. I think Graham Potter, I'm not saying he put a face on in front of the media, but I don't think he was as calm or as with it as he appeared on camera. I just don't believe so. But I believe with Nuno, you can tell when Nuno's pissed off. You can tell when Nuno's happy. I think that is exactly what you get with Nuno, and that's what we've heard from the training ground. We've seen players and heard players say, life is better now. We understand the manager. We understand what he wants. And now Nuno's going to have Rui Pedro Silva as well by his side. I just think it's a better time for Nuno at West Ham. I think it's a better time for the club overall. And I think we're genuinely going to be moving in the right direction. I think we're going to be a club who hopefully can push forward. This has to be a chance for us now to actively work as a regular modern football club, because that is not something we've been for ages. I just don't really know if we can do this again. I don't think it... We're very lucky that we got quite a good squad for the Championship. Yes, I know that Somerville's going to go for 40 million in his contract, something like that. I'm going to lose Wan-Bissaka, Areola, Tadiba. I've stuck with those five being the nailed-on five going. But even with that, you have a really good opportunity to keep Tati, Bowen, Mavropanos, Souček, Walker-Peters, Hermansen, who would be all top of echelon, upper echelon in the Championship. So I do think there is a good opportunity for West Ham to just be the club you would expect them to be. Really push on, really try to do something so that we make sure that when we get promoted, and I'm saying when, I'm a big believer, I'm not saying the Championship's easy, but it has to be a when, because after this season, it no longer becomes a when, it becomes an if. And the if gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So when we get promoted this summer, we have to make sure that we push forwards. We have to make sure that we don't just go to the Premier League and, we're in the bottom three of all the Premier League. No, we need to make sure we're in that, top 15. And then we can build and build and build. Because West Ham is a big club. We can do the whole joke of West Ham, I say wherever we go. But we are too good for the Championship in terms of club stature, right? Not in terms of how we win run and how we play on the pitch. I have no arguments that we deserve to be here based on how we were run, based on the appointments, based on how we play on the pitch. Right? I'm not going to say we didn't deserve to get relegated, because we did. The back half of the season when Nuno came in and things started to change, maybe not. But how we started the season and how we end, the entire last season where we had Lopetegui and Potter as our managers, that put us in this position. Messing about with directors of football, messing about with silly transfers with agents. This is why we're here, and this has to be the end of it now. And this has to be a positive step. Whether Nils Koppen is the answer long term, we'll find out. But we just can't go, Nuno doesn't like him, we'll get rid of Nuno, we'll get rid of Nils. No, we can't do that. We can't keep hitting the reset button, because every time we hit the reset button, the chance of it working gets lower and lower and lower. And also the chance of players wanting to come to West Ham are very low. Unless you get like a Mateus Fernandes who wants to be here for a season and then he'll bugger off to a better club that's actually run and actually give them the opportunity of winning something. This has to be an opportunity for West Ham now to actively become modern day club because we've been around like we're in the 90s for years, and it's put us here. And I know we won the Conference League, but outside of those 2 seasons with David Moyes, we have been rubbish for ages. We even when we won the Conference League, we came 13th. Yes, we finished 9th one last year with David Moyes, but again, we had glimmers of hope, but we squandered it. So I just think this has to be the time now where we actively push on, because if we don't push on, who knows what could happen. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you happy with Nils Koppen? Are you happy with Silva joining West Ham? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you hit the like, comment, and subscribe button. I'll see you guys later. Take it easy, and bye.